Live from Lincoln Center, another in the Emmy Award-winning series coming to you live from Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts in New York City. Tonight, a gala concert by the New York Philharmonic. The orchestra will be conducted by its music director, Zubin Mehta, with special guest artist, flute player James Galway. Also appearing will be harpist Marisa Robles. This program is being broadcast live from Avery Fisher Hall.
It's funny, however many times I hear that, and for me it's a couple of dozen, I still get kind of carried away. But you must have played it 100.
No, I didn't. In fact, I played it less than a dozen times.
Is that right?
Yeah. It's not very often played, this concerto, because it needs to get two people together with a flute and a harp. That's too complicated for most musical organizations.
Well, how come you know it so well?
Because I learned it.
Long time ago?
No, maybe about 20 years ago.
Is Mozart intrinsically easier to remember than other? I noticed that in rehearsals with the Rodrigo that you're going to read that, and you wrote it or you arranged it.
Well, I'm not reading it, but I just can't remember it. I can remember chunks of it, but other chunks I can't
So you see a pattern that guides you through the score?
No, you know the piece, and you just have the music there to remind you how it goes. But this Mozart I played a number of times. This is the second time today I will play this Rodrigo.
Yeah. The second time
yes.
that you have ever played it in public?
Total, yeah.
You recorded it?
Yes.
And that was the first time?
No, I played it in public before the records.
Oh. It's no secret that you've been doing some conducting and enjoying it.
Sure.
And I was talking to an old friend and colleague of yours, Mario Bernardi, who you worked with at Sadler's Wells, right?
Yeah.
And when I first knew him, I hate to admit, 35 years ago, he was a pianist. And I asked him just last week, do you ever miss going back to solo performing? He says, once you have played the big instrument, namely the orchestra, you're never satisfied again. Are you risking that as you move into conducting, getting tempted to?
No, not at all. No, I just do it because, you see, I'm an interpretive artist, and I think that I can direct better than most directors direct me.
So you don't want to conduct other people's orchestras unless you're playing with them?
No, unless they ask me to. I mean, if they ask me, I do it. But, I mean, what I object to is having somebody conduct me who doesn't know the piece. You know, last year, for example, one fellow came to me and said, Jimmy, I just got the score of this Mozart concerto 1 hour ago. I said, that's fine, forget it, because 1 hour is too late to learn it, and I already know the piece since I'm 18. I'll conduct it myself. Thank you. Goodbye.
Well, what happens when you encounter a conductor with a large reputation and a large ego? Are there sometimes some sparks?
I don't. You see, when I encounter somebody like Zubin, I know beforehand that he's going to conduct this fantastically. I mean, I know that it's going to be great.
Yeah.
Because I know he's a great conductor, you see.
But you have a rapport also. I noticed in the sessions, if you want to make a suggestion about tempo or whatever, you seem to be on the same wavelength.
Any interpreter does have that with a director, who is a good director. You see, I mean, Zubin knows what he's doing, and so it's not hard to have a good rapport, you know.
Yeah. About the Rodrigo, I was wondering whether one of the interests that you had in that piece, besides its haunting melodic quality, is expanding the flute repertory. Are you going to be looking for more concertos?
No. Can I say this on TV to all composers watching in? Don't write me another concerto. I have enough trouble playing the ones I've got.
Oh, come on. I thought the whole thing about playing the flute was there's a shortage of repertory.
There's no shortage at all. And I mean, I have enough concertos, modern concertos that I play, and I just don't have room for other concertos.
So you're not going to be looking around for more odd musical combinations or transitions?
No.
I mean, like taking the guitar and developing it into the flute?
No. I'd be quite happy from this minute on if nobody would ever send me one more piece of music. You know, my office in London, we have a whole wall full of music for me to listen to in my spare time. Of course, I don't have any spare time.
No, but these are unsolicited proposals.
Unsolicited.
Listen, I mean, you just got to develop a routine where you send them back if they're not
No,
solicited.
we don't send them back.
You listen to everything?
No, they send them.
Or you just put them up on the wall?
That's it. I mean, some people send me 2 pieces of Xerox thing, then about 100 letters that my secretary is supposed to answer, and then I'm supposed to look at these 2 pieces and send them back by airmail.
Listen, I have to ask you, because we ran a bit of the videotape from your remark during the rehearsal. Is it true that Rodrigo told you that it sounded better on the flute than it?
Well, that's what he said. I mean, he actually said this to me in the sessions when we were recording this. He said, oh, I wish I had had the idea of doing this. Because when I suggested it to him, he wasn't too much interested in doing it. But he said, go ahead and do it.
Had you asked him to make the transcription first before you?
sure. And he said, no, you do it.
What's the challenge in taking a string thing with a fistful of notes like that and turning it into a linear melody?
You have to learn how to take the tricks of the guitar and put them onto tricks for the flute.
Long job?
No, because there's only a few tricks the guitar can do that the flute can't.
Example?
Playing thirds or octaves and things like this, so we just make something else to substitute for that.
Do you have to do things with the orchestration for the rest of the orchestra to compensate from time to time?
Sometimes, because, for example, in the case of a guitar, maybe you have a flute in the orchestra who's in unison or octaves with the guitar, and then I would remove that because it takes away from my solo line.
Well, in terms of the technical difficulty, again, I'm anticipating, because this is coming up after the break, but I noticed that you've done some extraordinary things with your tongue from time to time in order to give what is almost a guitar sound, or one has the sense of that rippling effect that you get with a lot of fingers
I know
going
what you
on.
mean. There is one
What do you
passage
call
there.
that?
Oh, double tonguing.
Is that all it is? It sounds like four or five instead of just double.
Yeah. Oh, no, I know what you mean in the end. There's this bit here,
Yeah.
that's flutter tonguing.
Flutter tongue. You just go and let her go.
Well, I just thought that was a good effect.
But are you deliberately trying to create something that sounds like a guitar sound at that moment?
No, I just thought it sounds good there, and it's a bit of a change, you know.
Yeah, it's quite dramatic also.
Yeah.
Did you first hear the Rodrigo, by the way, when it was recorded by Segovia, which must have been, what, in the mid-50s? Is that where you ran across it? Because I
no.
remember it from that period when classical guitar is a big rage, I guess.
I've only heard Segovia play one time, and that was live. And he played a guitar as a recital. I've never heard him play any Rodrigo on record.
So how did you discover the Rodrigo?
I heard somebody else play it.
On guitar?
Yeah.
But not a recording?
Yes, a recording.
Yeah.
But I don't remember who it was. I just bought the record to see how the piece sounded.
There's a very haunting melodic quality to it, but as I was saying just as we came on, for some reason or other, I find that there's a quality of transport in the Mozart that persists. I can go out of here humming the Rodrigo, but I go out remembering being deeply moved, particularly in the final movement of the Mozart.
Yes, it's a very nice piece. It's a very good piece.
After having played it and heard it, you said less than a dozen times, but knowing it thoroughly, are you still moved when you played the Mozart?
Sure. I mean, if I don't get into a piece, really get into it, I don't play it anymore.
That's your criterion.
Yes, but I never get to this stage, you know. There's something to me that is childlike. I like to do the same thing all the time. You know, like, you know how your kids play football all the time, and how a dog is running after the ball. You throw the ball, the dog comes back, you throw it, he comes back. I mean, that's like me. I would keep running after the ball.
But you've also written about your experience in a concert, sometimes getting so carried away listening to other parts of the music that you forget where you are. And
I've done.
Does that still
in
happen?
the opera, I used to sit and just listen, you know, and sometimes I think, oh, there used to be a flute solo there. Hey.
You did not get caught out tonight.
How come Ireland doesn't play cricket?
Because we play rugby, soccer, football better than the English.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Just a little while ago, I was trying to provoke him into saying that the Irish conduct better than the Indians, and I thought maybe you were working up to taking over your job, but I think he's back.
I want him to give me some lessons.
In conducting?
Sure. I mean, I don't like to embarrass you on TV, Zubin. You ever seen an Indian blush? But I think he is one of the great conductors.
Don't get me blushing.
Like,
No way.
See, Mario Bernardi had said last week that once you've played the big instrument, you'll never go back to the solo. But Mr. Galway says that's not
because he
true.
never played it like that.
that's right. I mean, I can really play this contraption.
You know,
Is that so?
Yes, sir.
you just had an example of it. Whatever little nuances of tempo the harpist took, he was, I mean, just right on.
How much are you leading there and how much following in terms of establishing
I'm
the
just
tempos?
following.
Are you? You're watching.
Anytime I make music with Jimmy Galway, I follow.
Well,
I'm still not blushing.
But are you supposed to let him know that?
no, he
No.
does. He is a fantastic conductor.
Listen,
because
you know,
he
in
knows the
Israel
music.
2 years ago, he played a Mozart concerto, and after intermission sat in the orchestra and played Mahler's Fifth Symphony.
Yeah, that was funny.
And he never rehearsed it. He never saw what I was doing ever before. Mahler's Fifth.
Did you
I mean,
invite him
know,
to do that, or did he invite himself in?
No, I didn't even have to challenge him.
You know, he's always saying to me, Jimmy, when are you going to play in my orchestra? So one day I walked on the stage and said to Uri,
Oh, it
hey,
was
Uri,
terrific.
take the night off.
It was terrific. Besides, I know him from the London Symphony. from the Berlin Philharmonic. You know,
What is he telling you there?
he just played a little of Heldenleben.
From the Berlin?
Bruckner Ninth in Berlin.
Yeah.
And he came to the rehearsal one day, you know, with these very serious Berlin Philharmonic professors who all come at least in suits at rehearsals. He comes with a jacket and a t-shirt and he opens it at the rehearsal and it says, Mehta, Los Angeles Philharmonic Planets on the t-shirt in Berlin, really. But every time I go there, we talk about you and there's only love for you there.
Yeah, it was a nice experience. We had good times there.
Yeah, but
And sometimes when I hear recordings from, I think,
Old
your
recordings.
period, I recognize his,
Sure.
Yeah, but there was a period when Mr. Funkarian wouldn't show you on camera because he didn't like your beard, isn't that?
There was a lot of other guys who made him wear wigs, you know.
You're kidding.
I'm not.
Because it was shining or what?
I mean, this is his idea of a human being should be clean shaven and hair on the top of the head, you know. And I had hair on the top of the head, but also all around too, you know.
I often wondered, by the way, I often had to wonder in the days when it was a beard about that size, if it ever went down through the whole flute.
No, you always managed to.
Is it true that you copied your beard from Frank Zappa?
I did in the beginning, you know.
Did you ever
and then
meet him?
Solzhenitsyn, no, I never met Zappa. But then Solzhenitsyn came along with this half beard, you know. And I thought everybody got a half beard, so then I thought,
No,
right,
this is the best.
This is the
natural
best,
is the best.
It's somewhat more restrained than it was a couple of years ago.
well, you know,
Is that a question of taste, or?
no, I just changed, you know. Sometimes you grow a beard, you just let it grow. You don't bother shaving, you know. But if you grow a beard, I mean, my beard is not particularly well cut at the minute, but I think it could be a little bit better.
Well, we have a makeup man there.
Yeah, well,
And people in the background who are taking the responsibility for your welfare and feeding think that you ought to go and have a rest before you play
Well,
the
they do.
Rodrigo. Yeah, I don't want to
Let
send
him
you.
decide that. You want to have a rest?
I'm not worried.
No, he's just
mean,
he's
if
just
I go
played
up
in.
there- If I go up there, I have to talk to other people. I might as well sit here and talk to you.
Yes.
You used to
He's
say-
quieter here than he will be upstairs.
Well, I was going to ask
assure
you about quiet because
Yeah.
you've always said that
Every
you need a
flute player
quiet.
in New York is probably upstairs.
How does the house feel about that? Can we allow Mr. Galway to stay and talk for a little while? The house seems to feel that.
At the house?
Well, I don't mean the audience, but I mean
No.
all those, the animal
powers that
feeders
be.
back there, the keepers.
The ones who win the Emmys.
Well, I have to tell you a funny story about him conducting the London Symphony. We were doing one time Heldenleben, and you know the first page it goes on for, like, and then suddenly the whole thing stops, and the flute is going. So Zubin, he's making, and I didn't quite get the downbeat. I said, "Hey Zubin, can you make a little bit bigger the downbeat because I can't see it?" And Zubin said, "Well, I often had a deaf flute player, but this is the first time I had a blind one."
But you know, with his, height, with the music stand, I could barely see his eyes. I remember there was once an Eroica in Berlin too. And in the third movement, pop, 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 that entrance of yours, I think I saw about that much of you.
But I didn't play that one.
No, I think it was,
It was another
no, no, it was Bruckner Ninth.
Yeah.
It was one of those very pianist. It was the trio, the F sharp major trio of the scherzo.
That's right. I remember that. That was good, that Bruckner Symphony. But I remember best Turandot. He came to Berlin, did Turandot. I never saw a reception like this in my whole entire life in any
was
opera
that?
company.
How long ago?
This is a mutual admiration society.
Yes, I know.
here.
I mean,
Let's talk about something.
Nice blushing.
It would
His
be a
nose
little
is
more
getting ready
interesting
to
if you had some criticisms to offer of each other's work, but you're sitting here stroking each other.
No, I must say, this Rodrigo is such a charming work that we are about to play. And, well, I mean, it is Spanish
nice.
a lot, and it's,
Yeah.
it's sort of,
Irish and Indian.
yeah, he makes
Okay.
it sound a
We're
little
finished with
Irish.
In the rehearsal
a
the other
little
day, were
Irish.
you accusing of being more
I
than a
have
little
never
Irish?
tried to make it anything sound Indian. I've never heard of
no.
that. You know, I'm sort of so far away from that music, unfortunately, that nothing of that ever seeps in.
Was that harder
Like
to-
when you hear Hungarians playing sometimes, they tend to accent the music the way
Yes.
their language is.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
true.
Downbeat accents, etc. Sometimes you hear that.
Had you grown up in an atmosphere of Indian music?
No.
So it's never really
No, not
affected
at
your
all.
sensibility,
Not at
your
all.
musical sensibility.
You know,
is
it's
very-
as hot here as on the stage.
Here right now.
Who for?
It's these lights and...
We're going to turn the lights out in about 1 minute. You can go and have a real rest before
Yes,
you go
let's
back.
I
both
wanna
have
go
a,
and practice
not
my
a
flute
rest,
just a
just to
little
cool
bit,
off
just to-
this...
Well, why don't you
lighting.
stay here and we'll cool off the lights a minute. You're going to go and practice for a second?
Yes.
You better
I'm
give me
going
your
to get you out whether you want it or not.
The musicians are starting to go back. You better give me your microphone before
I
you
will.
go, because
Yeah,
if you
okay.
walk off and practice, they're going to get 2 for the price of 1, which would hardly be
One
fair.
microphone.
Thank you, Mr. Galway. Good luck in the
Later.
second half.
Thank you.
Cheerio.
See you in a minute.
We'll see you.
Do you find that in yielding to the tempo indication,
The first movement faster, the harp just couldn't play it. Because don't forget, Mozart wrote it almost for a piano. He didn't really write it with the harp in mind.
Miss Robles wanted to take it a little bit faster in the third movement, didn't she, during the rehearsal?
Well, I told her, I said, I'm going to start every movement comfortably. If you come and just take it on a little bit, we'll go along with you. It's better than if I start it at a brisk pace and then she's embarrassed by playing it slower. That would not be nice.
Is this the first time you've done the Rodrigo, by the way?
I will be doing, yes. Yes.
Will this be the first time?
You have to ask me that on television.
Yes, right. Will this be the first time you're going to do the Rodrigo?
Yeah.
It's a lovely thing.
Yeah, beautiful.
You're going to do it in about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And I will
So?
say thank you.
I'll say
very
goodbye.
much. Now, we're going to be back. Don't block my camera, Mr. Conductor. We will be back with the second half after a brief pause.